Welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're talking all things NRL Grand Final. That's right. And here with me on the couch to help me unpack it all is Trace, my wife. That's right, I've drafted her in. She's off the bench. Trace The Pink Panther, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, feeling a little bit unqualified today, appearing next to my husband, who is the NRL geek of the century.
I am, it's true.
But I'm here, I'll do my best, right?
That's right. What a top wife. It's absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. Talk about your team. Tracy's a pretty big Panthers fan, so, she's feeling, how are you feeling, actually, leading into Grand Final week?
I'm feeling a bit stressed. I don't think you'd understand the stress of being in the finals, looking at your top. I don't think your team made it this year.
Wouldn't have a clue what finals feel like.
Not for a long time.
Not for a long time. I've supported the Warriors over the years as well. Not a common feeling every year in September to know what finals feels like. But before we get into everything, Trace, we need to have a bit of a shout out for our sponsor, the Fitz 2 Sports Bar here in Christchurch. They're over by Lancaster Park. They're amazing guys. They've been supporting the podcast all year. So thank you so much to the Fitz. Now, we're actually going to be down there for the grand final. Me and Trace will be there. It's actually my 40th birthday as well. So if you're not doing anything, please come down, have a pint with me, watch the grand final, and it's going to be an epic night. So, thanks, guys, at the Fitz for supporting us. It's been a really, really cool year.
So can we talk about my team first?
Of course we can. It's it's the Panthers. Of course we can.
It's been a really tough year for the Panthers. Obviously we finished second, but we didn't have Cleary for most of the season. He's played the big 10 games, right?
That's right. He's been out for a while with injuries, and he's getting pretty used to coming back from injury now.
Yeah, we lost Taylor May very early.
Yep.
Naughty boy, gone to the UK, I believe.
Yep.
Lost Critter to the Bulldogs as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty big loss. He's showed his class over at the Bulldogs this year, and they made the top 8. Who saw that coming? He's been a massive difference for them. Yeah,
I just feel like last year, even though Panthers finished top of the ladder, I felt like they missed Cleary a lot more last year. Like, you could really feel the difference when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yet they still finished top of the ladder.
So this year, I think they had Jack Cole come through. They've had Brad Schneider come through, and he's been there for a couple of years now and managed to fill the void without Cleary there. So I don't think there's as much pressure on the likes of Jerome Luai to lead the team as well. But he did an amazing job.
Yeah, and I think he really stepped up this year. Like last year, you could just feel that he didn't control the team. He wasn't Nathan Cleary.
Okay.
But this year he's had to step up, and I think he's really taken it on, and we've not missed Cleary quite so much. I wonder whether it is because he's been signed by the Tigers. Everyone's looking at him. And, he's got to step up to that, and he wants to hit the ground running when he goes to the Tigers. And I just think, maybe he's matured as well.
He's got a point to prove. He's like $1.4 million per season as the West Tigers' number 1 recruit, probably of all time.
Yeah.
He needs to show he can lead a team, and I think he's done that. And let's not forget, he actually led Samoa to a World Cup final playing halfback as well, only a few years ago. So I think Luai's kind of Nathan Cleary's Robin and Cleary's Batman, but it's time for him to step out of that shadow, and he's done that this year.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point. So coming into the finals, Panthers were matched up against the Roosters, who looked on course to finish the season really strong. But then they went and lost Sam Walker, Brandon Smith, both got ACL injuries. They're gone till mid-next year. That's a huge loss. And then coming in, they also had Jared Waerea-Hargreaves out, which is not a surprise. He's always suspended. Don't know how he made 300 games in his career because he spent more time off the field than on it. And they also had Victor Radley out. So what happened in that match, Trace?
Well, my boy Nathan Cleary, Nat, he came back and they smashed them 30-10. They never looked like losing, did they really?
Not really.
No.
It was pretty convincing.
Yeah. But yeah, he came back fresh. Looking back to last year when he came back, he was shaky.
There was a couple of times he was kicking at goal and it was like, off to the
I
side,
know.
nowhere near the post. He just seemed a bit off.
Yeah, his kicking game was off, but he's come back this year like he's never been away, just fresh as.
Yep.
And I don't know, I've not been able to fault him this time. I just think he's there. I think mentally he's so ready. And I think he feels bad for his team being out there doing it without him another season. And, you know, he's come back and he's got some making up to do and he's doing it.
Well, it looked like just the same old well-oiled machine, didn't it? The Panthers machine just clicked into gear. The Roosters were never in the game. Like it was kind of embarrassing for the Roosters because Penrith never looked like losing. They just gave them a good old-fashioned thrashing, which we love. We love a good thrashing, don't we? So, as a Panthers fan, coming into the semi-final against the Sharks, given that the Panthers weren't as dominant this year, but also knowing the Sharks have kind of got a choker's tag in the playoffs, what were your thoughts about that match?
Oh, I didn't. Throughout the season, I never thought that Sharks were grand finalists or anything. I didn't see them as a major threat. But then when they were actually pitched against each other, like on paper, the Sharks are a great team. They've got everything there.
Yep.
So, I was still nervous. It's never a given. It's top 4 teams. All the best teams are there.
Yeah.
And, from the final 8, it's the top 4 that
got through. Correct.
So you can't underestimate the Sharks. No. But I was nervous. I'm British. I'm used to losing things. So
yeah, don't talk to her about football. And don't call it soccer. It's not soccer. So obviously the Panthers got the win. They got over the likes of Nico Hines. And they never really got close. I think it was like the perfect 80-minute performance because people say, but the Panthers only won by 26-10 or whatever it was. I can't even remember the exact score, but it was a case of the Panthers just played 80 minutes and the Sharks couldn't go with them, especially at the back end of the match.
I still feel for the Sharks in terms of, the points don't quite reflect the game. It looks almost like they were kind of thrashed, but they weren't. But as you say, the Panthers do what Panthers do.
It was like they ground them out and they got that last try that makes the score look a bit bigger than what the match was, like you say. But, at half-time, it was 10-2 and the Sharks were in the game, but at the same time I felt like they can't crack them. They just can't score. And even the try that the Sharks did score, I thought was a no try, with Sione Katoa scoring in the corner, transferring the ball from hand to hand and getting it down in the corner. But to me it looked like a knock-on. But I don't think they saw that angle before the try was already confirmed and then commentators blowing up Deluxe. I was blowing up Deluxe and I was like, that's not a try, But anyway, Panthers did the job. They got through to the grand final and I think it's fair to say we've cracked on enough about your team and we need to have a look at the Melbourne Storm. Obviously minor premiers, finally knocking Panthers off their perch that they've had for a few years now. They actually took on the Sharks in the first round of the playoffs. So what happened in that match?
Bit of a mismatch.
that sums that up beautifully.
So Harry Grant single-handedly destroyed them, right?
He absolutely had a stellar performance.
Yeah. There was also a late goal from my boy, Ryan Pappenheisen.
You do love a bit of Pappy, don't you? I've got to watch out for this Pappy.
Yeah, that took it to like 37-10. And I think they really announced themselves as the team to beat.
Well, Harry Grant scored 3 tries for a hooker.
That's pretty good.
In a playoff match. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's very rare to see forwards, scoring so many tries, let alone. But Harry Grant is special. He is very different. He's a very attacking player. Probably the only other hooker similar to him in the comp was Damien Cook, but in his prime, could sniff out a try from dummy half. But yeah, Harry Grant is unbelievable. And he had an amazing game. It was one-way traffic, so there's not much point dwelling on that one too much. So let's move on to the semi-final, which to me was, a little bit controversial right from the get-go. Lindsay Collins being hit high by Nass. We all know what happened. Lindsay Collins misses the rest of the match. Nass gets to come back on after a sin bin. Yes, he's serving a suspension now, but, they still had their main man on the field in the forward pack. the alpha male. Wow, one of their alphas from the Roosters is gone for the match. It's a tough situation. I don't know what the answer is for that. But, the star of the show, though, was Jerome Hughes. Like, just how good was Jerome Hughes?
Yeah, so he got a hat trick.
That's crazy.
Come on. And he had a hand in many others as well. He's odds on for Dally M of the year. We may as well give it to him now, right?
I think so. I think he's earned it. He's been the most consistent player all season. I don't think he's really had any rounds out with injury either, which helps.
Yeah, so,
He's got the form on the board.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If there was ever a time for him to shine, it was that match, and he absolutely delivered for the Storm. He was unbelievable. He put in like this crossfield kick to Will Warbrick to score, just totally against the run of play, nothing doing, just pinpoint kick, scores a try. It just blew them off the park. It was absolutely amazing. But so now that leads us to the grand final. We've got the Storm versus the Panthers. Nathan Cleary versus Jerome Hughes. You've got the master and the apprentice. I don't know. Do you think your Panthers can get the job done, Trace?
I don't know. I shouldn't say this, but I feel like the dynasty could be over.
Really? That's a big call.
Yeah, I think we could be seeing a bit of a Storm sandwich here. They won back in 2020 and, Panthers have had it. And now the Storm are back. They finished top. I don't know. Storm, they just seem to be unstoppable at the moment.
Look, I think it's fair to say that the Storm should be favourites. They're top of the ladder. They won by, I think they were 2 or 3 wins ahead of the pack. Like the Panthers were second. But I think we're in for one of the greatest grand finals we're ever going to see. I truly believe that because I can't call it. Because the Panthers are full strength now. And I think the Storm have lost Nas. That levels things out a little bit. I just think it's going to be a low-scoring, close battle. And whichever team flinches first is going to lose. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic.
So yeah, as much as I think that Nathan Cleary is the best player in the NRL, and I just don't think we can see the same Nathan Cleary show that we've seen in the grand final last year, where he basically beat the Broncos single-handedly. You know who I'm talking to there.
I think Shem's going to hate you after that. But yes, that was an epic showing from Cleary. But the thing is, I believe he's got that in him. But, I still feel like this year's Melbourne Storm is a level above last year's Brisbane Broncos in the grand final. And I don't think that's unfair to say because this Melbourne's been unbelievable this year.
Yeah, I don't think Craig Bellamy could possibly allow the Nathan Cleary show to go ahead. But if it does, I want the Bellamy cam on full screen.
I would love that. Absolutely. So we've already said that Jerome Hughes probably gets the Dally M this year. And it's, Hughes versus Cleary on the bigger stage. But who's going to get the upper hand and lead their team to victory and why? Let's start with your boy Nathan Cleary. What's he going to do? What is it about him that can give the Panthers the edge over the Storm?
Yeah, well, obviously he's not played enough games to get those Dally M points this year. Otherwise, I think he'd be up there. But I think he's the most complete player in the NRL. That's, my thoughts.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, he can do everything. He can change a game with one pass, a kick. His defence is impeccable as well. He's so cool under pressure.
Yeah.
And again, shouldn't keep mentioning, but just look at last year's grand final.
He single-handedly pulled the Panthers back into that game. A 40-20 kick. You mentioned a kick. That's exactly what he's capable of. He did that again against the Sharks.
Yes.
And what happened on the next play? Paul Adamoli gets a try and Panthers are on their way thanks to a Nathan Cleary game-changing moment.
Yeah. So
out of nowhere.
Yeah. If he has his night, who knows?
This is why I'm so excited about the Storm versus the Panthers, because we are literally seeing the two teams who are clearly above the rest this year in the final, and this is what you dream of as a fan. Totally get to be unbiased on this one, although I will be supporting the Panthers because I don't like sleeping on the couch. I do believe that this grand final is the two best teams, and I can't call it. I really can't call it, to be fair. So, let's have a chat about Jerome Hughes. My opinion is that he's learned his craft. He's had his time. He started as a fullback. He converted to a halfback, and he's really come of age. He's he's peaking in his career. But this is the year where he's been a complete performer. He was known more as a flashy fullback who could break the line, score tries. Now he's a game controller. He's got that element to his game. But he has those moments of X factor as well. And then he's got Cam Munster outside him, which defenders get worried about Cam Munster. So all of a sudden Jerome Hughes gets more opportunity because defenders are worried about if he passes the ball, they need eyes on Munster. Yeah, so I feel like Jerome Hughes has learned how to be controlling the balance of X factor and to use the tools around him.
Yeah,
he's been incredible.
Then you've got Luai doing the same job for Cleary.
Exactly, and they've been doing it for years.
Exactly.
So,
and it's their last chance to do it.
Together.
I
know.
Exactly.
I know. Oh my God. How good is that? It just makes for the most mouth-watering final. So let's talk about the fullbacks. Trace, I know you've got a bit of a hard-on for Ryan Pappenhausen. I think we all do. He's an absolute freak of a player. Everyone loves his mullet. He's brought mullets back into fashion. So
did they ever go out of fashion in Australia?
I don't think they did.
No.
So what it is about Pappy as a player that could help the Storm win the grand final?
Yeah, I think it's a head game. He's obviously suffered a lot of injuries in the past.
True.
But he's not done too bad this year. Like, he had his early injury, but he's come back. And I just think he's got so used to it. He's worked on his mind game and he's just become so resilient, having to, to have to come back at that top level. I just think he's an intelligent person. He's really worked on his head game and he knows that, you've got to visualize that success. And I just think he's there. His speed's there.
Yeah, it's come back.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he did, right, against the Raiders a couple of years ago? He split his kneecap in half by colliding knees with Jack Whiten, if I'm correct. And he had to go away to the USA, rehab it up. Imagine being... Because let's be honest, Pappenhausen's asset is speed. Like, not just speed. We're talking blinding speed that can get through a gap this big. And without that, he's probably out of the conversation as an elite player.
Yeah.
Because he's tiny. Like, he needs that speed. So to come back, he's taken his time. But what I saw in the playoffs where he just destroyed the Roosters, he's back. He is back. And that takes a hell of a lot of work. So full credit to Ryan Pappenhausen. I wished he scored a few more tries through the F My Fantasy team. That would have been better. But he's peaking at the right end of the season. But what about Dylan Edwards? Panthers fullback as well. You must love Dylan Edwards.
Of course, yeah. He's a real rounded player, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not your Pappy.
He's not
very different.
He's way different. He's more of a tackle breaker. He's safe under the high ball. To be fair, he does drop the odd one. But, he gives you 200 metres of carries a game. Ryan Pappenhausen doesn't give you that. Pappy gives you amazing... He's a great defender, Pappy, in his own right. But what Dylan Edwards gives you is, as you said, a well-rounded game. He actually makes a lot of line breaks and sets up a lot of tries, but he's also a great support player as well. And he's a bigger body.
Yeah, very different, aren't they?
You can't tackle him. He breaks so many tackles. You look at his stats. He breaks tackles and he makes a lot of meters. So he's like an extra forward. When you're in trouble, who's taking that hard hit up off the line is Dylan Edwards. And for a fullback, that's a hell of an effort. So I think, their unique attributes are going to make for a great battle. Will it be an arm wrestle where a guy like Dylan Edwards is invaluable with his carries? Or will it be a game where the Storm get the upper hand and all of a sudden the game opens up and Ryan Pappenhausen shreds the Panthers' defensive line to shreds? We don't know. But those elements are really exciting and I can't wait to see what happens. Now, what about the battle up front? No Nelson Solomona for the Storm. Gone for 5 weeks. James Fisher-Harris, one of your favourites. He's leaving. The Panthers going to the Wars. You must hate that.
Yeah, feel really sad, but might get to see him around in New Zealand.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty
all
cool.
good.
Yeah, and Isaac Yeo, probably the most consistent forward in the NRL.
Underrated.
Totally underrated, even though he makes Origin, but he never gets talked about. Like, he is a machine.
Yeah.
Talking 40 tackles, 130 metres a game. He's a freak, and he never misses. And he actually scores a few tries.
Yeah.
And he's got an offload. He's got the complete game. Liam Martin is an absolute freak. He's an animal. We all love Liam Martin. How do you think these guys fare against, Tui Kamikamitha, Josh King, Harry Grant? We've talked about already. Sean Bloor, Katoa and Trent Liero. Like, pretty good Storm pack, but I think without Nelson, they're missing that little bit of X factor.
But Harry Grant's a superstar.
Yeah.
That's where I feel, is he going to do something? Is he going to be a big player in this? Is he going to make the difference?
He could be the guy in the 70th minute when one of the big boys from the Panthers are tired, can go from dummy half. Ryan Pappenhausen backing up. That's scary. So they're both very quick. And that is what Harry Grant brings to their forward pack.
Yeah, but then James Fisher-Harris, he's God.
He is. He is a big man. He's God.
And he's playing his last game. Like, this is his last opportunity. He's achieved so much there. He wants to go out on a high.
Yep.
And he's going to do everything he can, right?
It's going to be epic. I just think, like you said, everyone's been pilfering this Panthers side for years. They've lost your Matt Burton, Critter, Coruscant, Kickow. The list goes on. And now Fisher Harris, Taruva's going, Luai's going. Like, it's kind of not fair that the Panthers are still so good. Like, how do they do that? So, I think there's every opportunity that everyone rallies around these guys. We're going to win for you guys. Send you out on a high. It's going
to be emotional for all of them because they are like a family.
Yeah.
And you see that.
Yeah.
You really do. They're doing it for each other. And, each year they lose someone that's so special to them.
Yeah.
But this is like the last few
I know.
going.
It's going to be a whole new dynasty at the Panthers after this. It'll be a whole new team. Crazy stuff.
Could go either way.
Now, Tracy, we've mentioned the players, but it would be remiss of us not to discuss the coaches. How do you think the coaches are going to approach this game?
So, obviously, Ivan Cleary is very calm in his demeanour and unassuming.
Yes.
Craig Bellamy, not so much. But I guess they're just going to stick to what they've been doing because it's working. Two different approaches, but it's working for their teams and they're bringing out the best in all their players.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll change very much. I don't think we need to worry about that at all because they've got them to this stage.
And they've been there before.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Exactly. So it's going to be great. But I feel like Ivan needs this more than Craig because... he's had a great run of things recently, but he hasn't done it in different places. He'll probably need to go somewhere else to sort of prove himself in the future and, be up there with the absolute greats.
Yeah.
But yeah, this would just really get him in the mix for the greatest.
You mean like with your Wayne Bennett's, your Tim Sheens,
Yeah,
all
he's
of those
not
guys.
done it across different clubs, has he?
That's true. And he's had this amazing team to work with.
Yeah.
Whereas Bennett's won with Brisbane, he's won with St. George Illawarra.
Yeah.
And, it's Wayne Bennett.
But if he gets 4 in a row, suddenly it raises his status dramatically. Yeah. And I think as well, the press find him really boring because he isn't usually controversial in his interviews as well. So he goes under the radar as a coach.
I think so.
He was a bit more feisty in the last interview.
I quite enjoyed that. Yeah.
I know.
Calling out the bunker, how good.
Exactly. But yeah, I don't think we really need to worry too much about coaching. I think that both teams are in safe hands.
I think so. It's really going to come down to which team plays the most complete 80 minutes of their life. It really is going to come down to that. So I really think both coaches bring the best out of their teams anyway. But to get them, to the grand final, they've done that. So they won't change much. But it comes down to those 1% moments on the field. And I feel Craig Bellamy is one of those coaches that really focuses on discipline, 1%ers on the field. You hold that ball. You don't pass that ball if you do not need to pass the ball. That type of stuff. What do you feel the Panthers have as an edge for them?
Yeah, I feel it comes from within the players, and you've got your likes of James Fisher-Harris that instills that respect and responsibility, and all the new guys that are coming through as well. And I know that he will not let them do little things off pitch, like leave some rubbish on the side. It's like we don't do that at the Panthers.
Yep.
And that translates to the pitch. So, I just feel that discipline's just automatically there.
Okay.
Because it's coming from the players that have been there, that have that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll be great for the Warriors next year, for having James Fisher-Harris, bringing a culture and a winning, disciplinarian, attitude like that. I think that can only be good for the Warriors next year. But for the moment, that is exactly what the Panthers need on the field on the biggest day of the year. So it comes down to this: the two best teams in the NRL, who can go the distance. I genuinely believe, I've said it already, it's going to be the best grand final we've seen in ages. I actually can't see a blowout from either way. I can see extra time on the horizon. I honestly believe this is going to go to extra time. It'll be amazing if it does.
Score?
I'm picking 12-all at full time and a Nathan Cleary field goal to win 13-12 at extra time.
I'd take that.
Yeah, you absolutely will.
I'm going 2-0 field goal to the Storm. No, I'm not. That's ridiculous. I think 22-18 to Storm.
Whoa,
I know.
Interesting. Pessimistic.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I want you to be right for once.
Oh, mate, it'll be crazy. I can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be epic, honestly. Storm versus Panthers, the biggest grand final. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be very cool.
It's going to be epic.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. And there's going to be some hangovers.
That's right. There absolutely is. But anyway, that's a wrap for the NRL Grand Final preview. Thank you so much to the Pink Panther, Trace, for coming on the show, helping me out. And we'll be down at the Fitz. Make sure you're there. It's going to be an epic game. So again, I've been Dave. This is Trace the Pink Panther. And we'll see you next time for Kickoff.
Full time.